you love takeaway, travel, and international cuisines? Then you're going to love the Takeaway Man podcast. Join Kevin Kerwin, the Takeaway Man, as he searches for the best international food delivery services accompanied by popular musicians, comedians, and artists. But here's the catch. Each guest gets to pick a food delivery service, order their unique menu items for up to $20, and give a thorough review on it, so you can get the best value for your money next time you order takeaway. You can also enjoy the entire experience on Instagram by following @TheTakeawayMan. Sit back and turn up the volume because Kevin is here.
Hello and welcome to the Takeaway Man podcast. Today on the Takeaway Man podcast, we have the main man, Jeremy, aka the Taco Man, because I can't pronounce his second name, and that's what his name is in my phone. So that's pretty much it. So Jeremy is running a taco. He's actually running 2 taco shops now, based in Dublin, Ireland, and he's toured all over the world, and he's been a head chef in like the best restaurants as well. So yeah, that's pretty much my quick intro. And Jeremy, thank you so much for being on the podcast. How's things?
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, so just kind of a brief kind of thing, just in regards to kind of your work and things like that. Where did it come from? You know, so I kind of jumped on the your Buds pod, or not it wasn't a podcast. It was his live show, the Instagram thing. So you originally
Homies on Donkeys.
That's it. Yeah, I couldn't remember.
Smokey's my homie.
Yeah, that chap seems like an absolute legend, man. Legend. So you were telling him basically, so it came from your grandmother.
Yeah, so my grandmother had a restaurant back in my hometown in Lodi, California, called La Cocina Cuevas. And so yeah, my dad's dad's side of the family is from Guadalajara.
Okay.
But when my grandparents came over on the Bracero program, like in the late 50s, early 60s, and then they worked my farm workers worked the fields, and then in 1974, my grandmother had saved enough and opened a restaurant, and it was very successful for like 30 years. Closed kind of like when I was a very young child, but like most of my years growing up were just spent next to her in the kitchen. So, that's kind of the first things I learned how to cook were from her or from my dad. And then, I studied food history at university. And then I kind of always knew my life would revolve around food somehow. So I went to culinary school in the UK. I went to Tante Marie in Woking. Very good accelerated program. It was like less than a year to get like a level 4 Code Orange Blue diploma and all that.
Oh, shit.
It was good. And then I went to work at the best restaurants I could get my foot into at the time. Did a short span at Le Manoir, and then I was at a restaurant called the Artichoke in Amersham. Really, really good little restaurant. It's a 1 Michelin star place. Oh, wow. And then I was at Trinity in Clapham, also 1 star. And I was there for quite a while. I eventually became the head chef at Trinity's sister restaurant, Bistro Union. And then, I did some chef consultancy work. And 3 years ago, I came here because my missus. So,
wow.
We were talking about opening a restaurant back in California a few years back. And the opportunity had kind of presented itself, but Laura just wanted to be here for a little bit with her family before we decided to move all the way back across the pond. And I said, yeah. And I loved the first year here. And then, I've loved every year here. I've had a great time. So, but we opened the business in like the end of that first year, and then COVID happened and the business just lifted.
Yeah.
So,
that was the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very, very, it was like, it was the opposite for us because we were offering that takeaway, that quick, fast, takeaway. And it was a lovely spot we decided to trade in. It happened. So the first year before we had done that, we did festivals. So we weren't like consistently open like every weekend. So we were doing events. So we were constantly like all summer, pretty much you'd finish one event and you'd start prepping straight away for the next event. So we moved around a lot, which was good. We had good exposure from that. And then, then last year, oh gosh, what year was that? So it had been November of 2019, I think. The Eat Yard approached us and wanted to see because they were moving up to the new bit. So anyway, so they approached us. So we had opened up a spot there, and so a really popular thing back home in California, and something I kind of always grew up eating, was something called birria. And birria is like It's usually made with goat. It's usually birria de chivo. But in California, a lot of times it's substituted with beef. And it's like a big trend in the taco truck scene around there. And that was one of my favorite things, like getting birria for breakfast in the morning was like a really cool thing on a Sunday. Like my dad would take us to this place that did amazing birria. And my dad's side of the family being from Guadalajara, that's the kind of national dish there. From Jalisco state, like there's birria made all over, but Guadalajara is really famous for birrias. So as kind of an homage to them, I started really working on this recipe that I had from ages ago and just developed into what it is. And that's what I decided to put in the E-yard, was just a birria. That's all we served.
Yeah, because how we kind of first met was like one of the funniest things that kind of has ever happened to me in regards to a kind of a restaurant experience. So I saw this post came up online, and it was to do with Frank's. And so what happened is they said, oh no, there's this chef after coming over from America, he's going to be like making the best Mexican food you'd ever have in your entire life. And I read this and I was just like, oh, I'm fucking in. I'm in. This is me. This is my bread and butter. Now, the thing was about that was I thought that you were flying in and that was it. You were like flying in and flying out. It was going to be
you weren't the only ones who thought that.
Like it was like a one-time thing. And I was like, oh, we have to go and all this kind of stuff. So kind of a long story short, we go up to Frank's. Now, Frank's is an amazing restaurant.
I love it, yeah.
Like, it's class. But the one thing that I do really like about it is that, like, we're sitting now. Like, you were cooking the food and plating up the food in front of you, which is an amazing experience. Like, that is class.
Yeah.
But the one
I had a
thing,
great time doing that.
Like, that's unreal. But the one thing that kind of, not that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, is just like, I've always drank pints, and there's always been like a pints thing. The dude there, amazing guy, and he kind of comes over and he's the same, like big lad, big beard on him and stuff. And I was like, I'll have a pint of Heineken, please. And he's like, unfortunately, this is a wine bar. And I was like, well, I don't drink wine, so give me a bottle of Peroni or whatever you guys sell. And the dude was like, we sell wine. And I was like, I was like, I've never drank wine before. And your man's like, what you mean you've never drank wine before? I was like, I'm from Ireland. There's like pints of Guinness, pints of Heineken, basically everything in pint form. And your man he was like, okay, leave it with me. And that was the first time that I've ever had like pairings with like wine and food and all this kind of stuff. And every glass your man gave me, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, is this what wine tastes like? And I was just like, but the only problem is that I was drinking them as pints. So I was just
actually, those pairings were really well thought out. We had that kind of pop-up was a while in the making.
Really? Yeah.
When one of my best buds was the chef there, and he's like the exec chef for Frank's and Delahunt now. But when he first came on board, he was looking after Frank's, and when he took the job, because it was only him cooking, he needed to have a way for him to be able to like take a holiday. So when he took the job, I happened to also be setting up my own business, so I kind of could set my own hours at the time. So he was like, hey, man, will you cover my holidays there? What do you think about doing a pop-up? And I was like, yeah, that'd be great. It's great exposure for my business. And it's something fun. It's something different. You know, there's not a lot of that going on in Dublin at the time.
No, there was nothing. Like,
so
nothing.
He was like, well, look, so when he took the job, which was like 6 months before that, like that was already in the motions. Like we knew when his holiday was going to be and kind of when I was going to take that over. So we had a lot of time to like plan the menu and do the wine pairings. So like Kevin and I, like the week before, I would just bring over like small bits and talking about like the flavors I was putting together in the dishes. And he would be like, okay, cool. And take any selection they had and even call the suppliers. If it was something that we felt like we couldn't find a match for, you know, there was always alternatives to bring it in for that night. But we were lucky. Frank's has an amazing selection of wine.
Oh, it's class.
And we were able to make some phenomenal pairings, you know, just by putting our heads together. Like I'm well versed enough in wine, growing up in Lodi and being surrounded by wine and grapes my whole life.
Oh wow, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah. Right. So like Lodi is a huge wine appellation in California. It's mostly Zinfandel grapes, but it's just vineyard as far as you can see around the town. Wow. So I did WSETs as well. I did level 2 before I left London. I started level 3, but I haven't completed it yet.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, wine was always for me like a big part of going with it. So we had fun curating that menu anyway. So
man, I had fun drinking it. It was unreal. I was hammered. I had like 8 glasses or something. And like the thing is that like it was me and my buddy Ross, and he's actually going to be on. He was on last week's podcast, but
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we talked about this during it, but like there's a lot of couples and a lot of people, and they're all having that, and then you just have like this just Irish lad sculling glasses of wine, just loving the food. But there was one part that it was so funny the way you were kind of talking about it there was about all of the different restaurants and that you've worked in. I don't know if you've ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street, where there's like one part where it's like Jonah Hill walks over to Leonardo DiCaprio and he's like, you show me how to do that, I'll quit my job straight away. And there's been so many times where I've eaten your food and I've gone like, this is the best fucking thing I've ever had in my entire life. Like holy fucking shit. And there's been so many times where I'm like, yes, I need to learn how to do this. I need to learn how to cook this food. And there's been times where I've just wanted to say that to you, where I've just been like, dude, show me how to do this. I'll fucking work for free. I don't care,
thank
man.
you. Very humble.
like, and that's God honest truth. Like, where I'll just be like, show me your paycheck and I'll quit my job right away.
Right. Trust me, man, it's not as big after you start your business. You got a few wait a few years before they get the like we had like that doing that pop-up was such great exposure. And the amount of different people, and I mean from all walks of life, that we had at that pop-up. Like, you were just like saying, this crazy Irish guy sculling pints at the end or sculling the wine back. But we had I had a lot of other chefs there. I had we had so many different like food bloggers. We had like really young professionals who were just really into food and wine. Like from all age ranges. But it was a great pop-up, and I didn't realize like kind of the amount of varied interest in Mexican cuisine. Because like the food I was doing there wasn't like what I serve out of the taco truck by any stretch, but just kind of like the next step up, really. Showing that Mexican food can be refined. There's some amazing chefs in Mexico doing amazing things. No,
man, it's there's definitely like from trying your food and then going to like places that mass produce it. It's just so like eating your food. There's definitely been times where like even when we were in Eat Yard and stuff like that, and or when you did the thing for Guinness as well, where it's just like eating this food, and I actually like, I don't know, I'm addicted to food, man. Food's like my crack. I just eat it and I get really happy, and I'm just like, oh, this is deadly. Like this tastes unreal. But there's been times where you go into like a McDonald's or something and you're like, oh, this is just so bad. But
100%, dude. 100%. Like
in Ireland, Mexican food, there's definitely been places where they've tried to do kind of like the high end kind of style thing, but they've mass produced it. So it's just fallen through.
I mean, man, like in my current line of business, like we have to walk a really fine line between streamlining products and making systems so that you can bring in enough money in a day. Like because you're doing street food and that your price point, your price point needs to be so that everyone walking up can afford it. And with that, you also need to be able to maximize how much you can bring in an hour, because you're not guaranteed to spend per head. Really, we have like an aim for spend per head as far as the business goes, but like some people just really just want a set of tacos. And you're like, okay, that's great, and I need to be able to get out as many tacos as I possibly can an hour. So some things you have to streamline, and like to going home and seeing some of the food trucks at home and seeing how they do it, like it only goes so far. Like at home, labor is a little bit more cheap, and you can afford a lot more workers on a line. Whereas here, like I need to pay them quite a minimum, and it needs to be worth their time. And I'm pretty fair boss. Like I pay everyone well above what is minimally required.
Oh, definitely.
So,
but the thing is though, is that like I was there at the very beginning when it was just you and your missus, and you pulling your hair out, going, oh shit, and you're like making all the food,
and that was really hard for me, man, to like step away and allow someone else to prepare the food. That like we have a production kitchen. I spend a lot of time, we make all the food together with my team and that. But even me like stepping away from the grill and actually being the guy who hands out the food, that was kind of a step for me, because like it's mine, and I want to make sure that I know that I make sure everyone's the same.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to, always be constant. I don't want to hover over a guy's shoulder all the time.
Hey, but that too, yeah.
It's just instilling the importance of consistency, and that comes a lot in streamlining systems. So like, what I was trying to say is we walk a really fine line, we walk a delicate balance between streamlining things and keeping that quality that everyone knows is for original.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
No,
Because
cool.
like a lot of times, like I can cook things a la menu, I can cook them fresh, and that you can't necessarily always do that when you have a queue of like 200 people. A Big Grill showed me that. Man, I've never had a queue that long in my life, but at Big Grill Festival, it was like an 8-hour trading day, and for 8 of those, like every single hour, we had a queue an hour long.
That's insane.
So you're cranking out food, and it teaches you to keep like at that level, that volume, to keep consistency. It really tests you.
100%, yeah. And that's one thing is that that's definitely happened to me going to like all these kind of food trucks and stuff, is that when it comes to getting the variety of things, is that like you're kind of going, all right, I'm only going to be here the one time, so I need to get like the chicken taco, the vegan taco. I need to get the beef one, or then you always tease me with like, you're like, oh, better throw a couple of chicken wings there as well. I'm like, oh man, I'm like, all right, cool, throw some chicken wings. I'm like, oh, these chicken wings are unreal. And then like what I've definitely noticed, it's one thing that's really, it's a big thing now that's coming in. It's the actual packaging of stuff, and your packaging for all of your things. It's very eco-friendly, and not only that, it's microwavable friendly, because I've nuked the shit out of it. Because I bought so much and I've had to reheat it.
We spent a lot of time looking for our packaging.
Yeah,
and like when we first started for festival in 2019, like biodegradable packaging and even compostable packaging, that man was like, it's so expensive. It is 20% more than all other packaging. And it's not only that, it's like at the time, like there was only a couple of 1 or 2 companies in Ireland, and they were really expensive. So we'd be shipping things over from like Germany and stuff, who are a little bit more advanced in it than we are.
Yeah.
Now that everyone's been forced into takeaway, man, the selection's gotten way better.
Yeah. Oh, big time. Oh,
and the prices have gotten better too. So, it was like, that was one positive swing to it. But yeah, you're 100% right, man. When we first started, like from the beginning, we made that decision that it was all going to be eco-friendly packaging. Every bit of our packaging.
The next section is drinks. I've been ordering drinks from, it's called craftdirect.ie. A guy, Eamon in craftdirect.ie, kind of explained to him, was like, hey man, I'm doing this podcast and stuff. And he works with all the independent Irish breweries. And he sorted us out with a couple of beers.
Mega.
Yeah, so today's beer is going to be a smash IPA from...
Did you say it was craftcocktails.ie?
Craftdirect.ie.
Oh, see, I'm drinking something from craftcocktails.ie.
Oh, no. What's this?
The Craft Cocktails Tommy's Margarita.
Oh, yeah?
Comes in like a cool little hip flask kind of thing. This is from bar 1661 in Dublin.
Oh, cool.
It's handmade craft cocktails. They're actually very tasty.
Happy out. So cool, man. So the way this section kind of goes in, we talk about your experiences with kind of like the drinks and stuff like that you've been selling at your places or in restaurants and things. One thing that I've definitely it was kind of like a bit of a game changer for me is that, and you've, like, it's so funny. You've done so many firsts for me in regards to kind of eating food and stuff like that. You're like, now I'm so sorry if I absolutely butcher the pronunciation of this, but the horchata, is that it?
Horchata, yeah.
Yeah. Man, you were like, here, drink this. I was like, what is it? I was like, oh. And he's like, oh, it's a cinnamon drink. And I was like, I don't really like cinnamon. You're like, no. You don't like Irish cinnamon. This is like a sweet cinnamon. With like, so he's like, this is when it's done properly. And I was drinking. I was like, oh, like what? Like, there's been things where I've just been adamant. I'm like, I don't like cinnamon. I don't like, like apple and cinnamon, all that kind of those things. And then like, you're like, no. Just have a sup of this. And now I'm like, this is amazing. So like, how many times has that happened to you in regards to like showing the likes of a new culture or whatever to somebody? It could have been in London.
I've had a lot of those firsts here in Ireland.
Really? Yeah.
It's a cool thing when people are like really open to it. you do find the odd person that's like, nah, I don't want to try it. No, okay, fine. Like, you can't do anything about that. But when people are open to it, yeah, I love sharing new things, like things they're from my culture. Like, we do all of our own drinks, agua frescas, and horchata is like our number one seller. It's rice milk, cinnamon, lime, and it's sweetened with something called piloncillo, which is like the first press of sugarcane. Yeah, we use the outer bark of the cinnamon.
Okay.
That's the part you like. It's sweet cinnamon. You can buy it in like Asian shops here.
Okay.
But like the powdered stuff that you buy in Tesco's or Super Value, whatever, is from the inner bark. And it's much more sharp and spicy.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're right. It can be extremely overpowering, whereas the outer bark doesn't quite have as many of those spice compounds. And it's got the sweeter sap. And it's just a nicer cinnamon all around. Yeah, we use that, like even like different fruits. Like I put on my menu this month one of my favorite agua frescas from home, which was called agua de Jamaica. Okay. It just means Jamaican water. And it's hibiscus tea.
Wow.
So we make like a really sweet hibiscus sugar syrup, and then we dilute that with lots of water and lime juice, and you get agua de Jamaica. And like it's really nice because we've got to the point where a lot of my guests, they don't even ask, they don't care what the agua fresca of the month is because they've not had one they didn't enjoy. So they're just like, yeah, I'll have whatever the agua is.
Yeah. Wow.
And you're kind of like, okay, sweet. Like
that's amazing, man. And and then the next thing is, so we kind of went through, so we talked about water and still and sparkling, but you actually were, I think you were probably one of the first guys to bring Ting over here.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, we're actually in the middle of trying to work out a deal with Ting directly.
Really?
That I would supply them. Yeah. I'm actually just working at a place that I can store them all because they've agreed to sell me basically a shipping container full of Ting.
Oh, shit.
And it's good because, like, man, when I first started bringing it over, I would bring over more than 100 cans a weekend, and it wasn't even close to enough. I could have sold 30. So, but you physically can't buy more than 100 at a time from Tesco's, even in the north. Because like I would just go around all the Tesco's in the north, buy them all up, and come back. And then we were able to get them for a while. But before COVID, Laura and I would just kind of go take a boat over, have a bunch of them sent to Wales, and we drive them back over, which was grand. But now they actually have a license to be able to sold here. It's just no one carries them, so we got and hold them directly. So yeah, hopefully in a few months down the road, we'll have something worked out with them where we will be the supplier of Ting in Ireland.
No way, man! That's so cool. Yeah. Like it's such a jump to kind of go from where it originally kind of started, to just have like a couple of cans to go with the Cubanos and stuff like that. Yeah. And then to go from that to then being like one of the suppliers in Ireland for it. I'm sure there's probably 101 products that you can kind of go, there's definitely a demand for this and stuff. And
yeah, I mean, we found like the fact that we were just selling so many in a weekend without even trying, like people were just like, what is that? And I'm like, yeah, you've never seen it. It's Ting. It's great for, so just try it. And that was it. People would come back, buy 4 or 5 to take home. And I'm like, oh, these are going fast, man. So it's been a while in the works. It was more just like, financially, a shipping container of Ting is not exactly cheap. No. It's a lot of product to sit on. And previously it would have been a kind of a daunting thought trying to sell a shipping container's worth of Ting, even out of my trailer. Like I'd have to sell one to every single guest who came by to make it worth my while.
Yeah, exactly.
But now that I have 2 spots and we're working on that third, it's going to be, it'll be viable now that I can sell them to my locations. So
yeah, you'd be selling Ting in your sleep now once.
I just, I really like it. That's the thing. I tend to sell things that I really enjoy. If I don't really enjoy it, probably like it's not really worth it to me. I don't really care that much.
That's exactly it. We had a guy on the podcast there. It was Today We Are Making, and it's a dad and daughter duo, but that's one of his main things is that like he was getting kind of some stick from vegans and stuff. He does a lot of his things that he does online. It's like he does a lot of TikToks and all this kind of stuff. And vegans are like, oh, what vegan stuff are you going to be selling? And he's just like, I'm not vegan. Like I don't cook vegan food. It's something that I'm not really interested in. Yeah. So if I was to cook it, it probably would taste a bit shit. And I wouldn't want to serve something that's going to taste a bit shit. And because of that, I'm not going to do that anymore, you know? And
I mean, man,
probably the same thing.
when I was chefing in London, there was a huge, I don't want to say anti-vegan. It was more of a huge pushback from a lot of really well-respected, well-regarded chefs in the UK running, 1, 2, and 3-star restaurants that were all at some point being like, you know what? We can feel that there's a huge lack of effort from ourselves and our team of chefs to create like vegan tasting menus and things like that. We simply we don't really enjoy doing it, and I'm not going to force my show. There's no love in the food then, so they completely struck it off the menu. It's just like, please don't ask. We will not create a vegan. Some of them went as far as to just say, well, I'm not even going to create a vegetarian tasting menu.
Wow.
Because a lot of times what was happening is like, because there's so many little beautiful vegetable garnishes, you would just end up with a plate of garnish without the main course,
Exactly.
Like it's not even fair to charge someone for that. Yeah. So there was a huge school of thought, and I remember, and I kind of respect that. That's just honesty. At the same token, some chefs might say, that's just being lazy. There's both sides to look at it. I don't really know what side of the fence to sit on that one, to be honest. Like I myself, I quite enjoy making vegetarian food.
Yeah, like
coincidentally speaking, a lot of pre-colonial, pre-Columbian Latin American cuisine, specifically Mexican cuisine. The Aztecs like thrived predominantly by being vegans. They weren't strictly vegans. There was no term for that, but like strictly speaking, their diet of what we know as the Three Sisters, which is a taco on my menu.
Yeah.
Quite often in the year, which is corn, beans, and squash. And they grew in these big mounds, and they grow really harmoniously together. They were like the first companion plants. So you have corn that grows up and takes a lot of nitrogen from the soil, and you have beans that grow up that stalk and give nitrogen back to the soil. And then you have the squash that grows around the base of the plant.
Yeah.
And it basically, the giant leaves blot out the sun so no weeds can grow at the base.
Holy shit.
Eating all three things together give you 9 essential amino acids.
No way.
Yeah. And so you can survive. You would be able to survive on a diet of just those 3 things, especially when the corn is nixtamalized. And you now have a full nutrient grain rather than just a grass.
Holy shit. So it all makes sense now. There's method to the madness.
There is absolutely 100%. And so like like cooking the kind of style of food I do, and veganism has been huge back home in California for a long time, far longer than it's ever been a thing here. I was exposed to that. Like several of my cousins were vegans. One of my cousins was a raw food vegan for a while.
Oh, wow.
So I learned, I just learned because I love them, and I was like, cool, man, if this lifestyle you chose, I'll find a way to cook for you. So you go out and experiment with a lot of different fruits and vegetables, and some of them I can't get here. Like some of the best vegan dishes I would know how to make. Like I love cactus, and it's a very healthy food. But fresh cactus and like some of the fresh squashes we get at home are like really good for that.
There's a place in town called El Grito, and I think they're a Mexican kind of run place, but they have like a cactus salad. It was a cactus salad taco. And like I bit into it, and I was just like, this is real rubbery kind of thing. It was a real kind of, I was like, whoa, this is a bit weird. And I was like, what? I thought that was a vegetarian yogurt. And I went in and I had a look, and I was like, oh no, that was cactus. I was like, and is that probably one of the reasons why? It was because you can't get it fresh? Is that why it's not on your menu?
Yeah, I mean, I only feature it in breakfast burritos now. So like when I sometimes we open on a Sunday morning for breakfast. When we do, I will put nopales as cactus. I put nopales and eggs because it's quite common. We get them jarred or pickled here, and that's quite common to put jarred or pickled ones in a breakfast burrito back home. Well, so that's generally the only time I use it, or as like a garnish for something. But like, yeah, I wouldn't put it on as like a main dish until I could get it fresh. And in which case I'd have to grow it myself, to be honest, because I don't think you're allowed to import fresh cactus here.
Oh, no way. Oh,
yeah. There's a few things that we just can't get just because you cannot import them fresh.
Yeah. That's mad.
Deal, no deal.
Meal deals and stuff like that. I've seen that you guys are doing some insane kind of meal deals now, especially out in the Ted's place. Like you're doing kind of like the boxes. So like,
because we're teamed up with Frank's and my buddies over there. They like obviously have their menu running alongside ours. So what we found was on the weekend nights, you're getting, or not, like Friday nights and Saturday nights, people's orders were substantially bigger than obviously at lunchtime or whatever they're ordering for their family. And we were like, cool, how do we streamline this? Like, because the orders sometimes were so obscure, like, you know, you're ordering for 6-7 people, and like, I don't know, just in a little space like that, you have to really think systems and how can we expedite this?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, me and my buddy Chris got together and we came up with these meal packs, and yeah, we're really happy with them. They sell really, really well on Friday, Saturday nights, especially because that's all we offer on the Friday, Saturday nights. You can add to the meal deals, but like if you're an individual and you rock up, and we're not like rammed out the door, yeah, we'll sell you like, you know, a single set of wings or a single burrito or something like that. But for the most part, if you're going to order for yourself plus one, we just offer the meal deals, and you can add to it. And we make them vegetarian if you like. That's completely feasible. Yeah, so yeah, it's like a meal for two. You get a portion of empanadas, a portion of wings. You get a portion of chicken tacos, a portion of beef tacos, and you get a portion of papas fritas and a bunch of dipping sauces for everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like I said, we do it for 2s and 4s, and it's working out really, really well. And then at the Knoll, usually we're coming up to summer, so May, June, the end of May, beginning of June, we'll also do like barbecue packs.
Yeah.
So well, the trailer for like usually one whole weekend, we'll just like, especially when it's sunny out, we'll just turn into like serving like barbecue racks of ribs, half chickens,
the ribs,
smoked cauliflower, stuff like
yeah, because you were doing all that kind of the smoker kind of stuff as well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's why it's like California cuisine, like, you know, it's Mexican, it's always Mexican influence because that's, you know, half of my lineage. But like I grew up in California, so like, you know, we still have a lot of American foods that I really enjoy, and I like making them too. So it's nice to throw that thing in there. Like so we'll definitely have like barbecue ribs and chickens and mac and cheese and cornbread and that kind of stuff. That'll be coming on the menu very soon, May, June time. So
happy days, man. Oh, that's class. Have you ever found out, like, has there ever been a thing where when you're kind of serving people that you need to tell them like this is how many people this should feed, and then you have like Kev that walks up and I'm like, I will have 2 box sets, please, and you're like, it's just for you, and I'm like, yes, this is just for me. I know it says the packet feeds a family of 4, but
let's put it this way: especially with the Tedsgaff one, we had two of the lads that work with us there, and they came on their days off, and they're quite hefty eaters, these boys.
Yeah.
And even they came after they ate the meal for 2, and they were like, "Chef," they're like, "That's bomb diggity for 2." Like they're both full, you know, and those 2 boys are walking away full, and they're like, and you're like, "Hey, you sure you don't want a dessert?" You know, like they're our coworkers, like, you know, hook you up a little extra. And they're like, no, we're good. So we know we're hitting the mark there. And yeah, like I've learned that like always err on the side of generosity. Like with my business, we always teach my guys like always on the err on the side of generosity. People really appreciate that. You know, like if we can afford it, then let's just do it. I found out here in the Knoll, especially because everyone's feeding big families. Yeah, you need to offer a portion, but no one's ever balked it. If I say this is what I have to charge to make money, you know, it's not a charity, it's a business.
Oh yeah.
No one's ever balked. And I can't say, I mean, let's put it this way, man. Have you ever walked away from my wagon and been like, I could eat more?
No, never.
Yeah, I didn't
never done that. Like, literally, I've never. No, definitely. No, but that is one thing that I've that I love about like going and trying these places and doing that kind of stuff. But I've also been, especially in restaurants in Dublin, where people are kind of taking the piss a bit, you know, where they're kind of going like, hold on a minute here, like this is like there'll always be that comparison where you're kind of going to a high-end restaurant or whatever, and you're kind of going, oh, well, I asked for like a prawn cocktail thing or whatever. Yeah. You're going, there's like a prawn here, you know, and just like, it's the same prawns. Like it's like they're.
I mean, I have to say, like, you know, like I watch a lot of social media, and obviously being in the industry, like, I watch what everyone else is doing. Like I'm curious, I want to see, and I'd say that some people are absolutely smashing it, but there is a percentage of them that never really realize like it's not the same experience. You can't charge the same amount for the same food that you're putting out in the restaurant and expecting people to put it together on a plate at home. Yeah. That's not what you take the experience out of it and focus more on delivering value for many. because during the pandemic, that's what everyone was looking for. They were looking for value for money.
Big time.
And it was like, okay, you don't necessarily have to have the most massive portions if the food is quality and super tasty. But I think Irish people, especially, they when they dump it all out on a plate, it needs to look substantial.
Oh yeah. I like, that's the thing. And one thing as well is, like, it's so funny because, you know, when you do the birria, you know, and it's like the big, huge kind of meat thing, and you have the broth, and you get the little cup with the stuff and all that kind of stuff. Like, in Ireland, we do have kind of the same sort of concept, but it's just everything in the kitchen sink gets put into it, and it's a big stew or a big coddle or a big whatever, and you're like,
100%.
Like it's that's great and all, and it's absolutely amazing. But how come yours tastes so much better? You know? like that's the thing.
Because my birria, I keep it quite simple. There's like every family back home, or it has their way of making it. You know, like for every dish, you know, everyone's grandma makes pozole differently or makes birria differently. They have their way. Mine is a little bit of my family influence and a little bit of my own know-how. And what I did is I just stripped it back. I was looking at recipes, and some of them have so many different spices in it. And at the end of the day, I'm always like, scaling that up for the volume that I need to sell to make money is difficult. So instead of scaling recipes up, we stripped back the amount of things that we put into it to try to achieve a clean flavor. So it was just a bit of know-how. My birria is very, very simple, man. We use a beautiful, well-made white chicken stock as our base.
Yeah.
That gets poured over really beautifully prepped, seared beef shin and brisket. It gets guajillo chilies, pasilla chilies, garlic, salt, and pepper. And that's it.
No way.
And then it basically gets
and then just buckets of love.
Yeah, exactly.
and then blood and sweat and tears and years of experience.
And then it gets slow cooked, and then it's strained out. And like a lot of birria recipes would call for people to make a paste before it's cooked.
Oh, okay.
But we don't. We actually make ours after, because basically we rehydrate the chilies at the same time we cook the meat. What you're left with is this really lovely beefy chicken stock, essentially. And then we can take and add as many or as few of the chilies as we deem fit for that batch, because it might not necessarily taste the same every single time. It's just, it doesn't.
Yeah. So, and like, that's the thing. Is it kind of like a kombucha kind of style thing where you have like a starter? Or are you going to be putting... No. So everything is completely fresh then, yeah?
While we're prepping, like basically the chicken wings for the stock come in the same day that the meat comes in. And while one guy preps the meat, one guy is getting the stock on the stove. And by the time he's finished prepping all the meat, the stock, after about 2 hours, is ready. And it gets strained and poured straight over the meat hot, and then straight into a hot oven.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
So it's all the whole first part of the process done in one day. And then the oven, or, you know, like last summer, we actually cooked it like over wood fire, which is great. It's a lot longer and a much more hard to control process. But from time to time, that is the authentic way, is kind of like a barbacoa oven cooked birria.
Oh, shit.
So when I can and the weather permits, I do it over the wood. But for the most part, it's cooked in a gas stack oven, and we do our best to make sure that it tastes consistent, like from time to time. So.
Holy shit, man, that's insane. Like, and how tough would you reckon, because you have your production kitchen now, how tough would you say it would be, like, having this kind of rollout? Like, is there any days off that you have, or are your days off?
Yeah, well, so Mondays are generally my sacred day. That's my day off. I don't do much except for I'll call in a few orders that have to be placed on Mondays. But aside from that, that's my day. I go take my dog for a walk, or get my house chores done and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then Tuesdays, I'll start my office admin, like follow up on any orders I need for the week, look at my numbers, projections, like my Laura and I, she's my business partner as well. So we'll have a business meeting on that day. You know, it's that's a lot of admin for half the day. And then I usually take like an early evening on Tuesdays. And then from Wednesday, it's early morning in the kitchen, and I'm in the kitchen all day long Wednesday. And then, and Thursday I spend in Rathgar. Friday I do a half day in Rathgar, and I'm back to the trailer Friday night.
Oh, shit.
And then I go wherever I'm needed on Saturday. And then, Sunday I have to deliver like kind of one more round of food to both locations, and I'll stay at whichever one kind of needs the help.
No way. Well, Jesus, man. Like you probably have to make a clone machine now at this stage. Like that's insane. And what's the crackdown with the third location? Is that going to be an actual restaurant, or like can I take out shares yet? Like what was it working?
Yeah, I mean, look, a brick and mortar is definitely in the works down the line.
Really, yeah.
I don't know if that's the first thing I'm going to do. We've been looking at, I really want to do like a seafood place. Like we want to call it La Cocina Cuevas del Mar.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
And just serve like some banging seafood stuff because we get like, I had fish tacos on last Friday, on Good Friday.
Oh yeah.
Man, I could have sold the ocean of cod. It was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like the amount of orders and people I had to turn away because we had sold out after 2 hours.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and same, I had a crab tostada on down in Rathgar on Good Friday, and we sold plenty of that. So it's just like, yeah, there's a good craze for like, as soon as the weather gets a bit warm, people want that.
You see, it's like the flaky fish, especially the cod, like a white fish tacos. That's unreal. Yeah. Would there be any kind of inspiration to do kind of like more of a traditional Irish fish, you know, like do like a rainbow trout or a brown trout, or do something like that, something that's completely off the wall?
Absolutely. I really like the idea of bringing like some kind of have you been to San Francisco?
No, never. No.
So San Francisco is really like the one major San Francisco street food is a bread bowl full of clam chowder.
Oh, okay,
San Francisco chowder bread bowl. But like we've been working on like a few different kind of more Irish chowders using lots of Irish water fish and things. To serve in some kind of like San Francisco style sourdough bread bowl. Because during the autumn, we think that'd be a really cool street food thing for here, to serve soup in a bread bowl that you eat, and then you tear and eat the bread as you walk away.
Oh, yeah.
It's a win-win.
Happy days. Yeah, I've seen a couple of things like that before where, have you ever seen it where they have like a big, huge baguette, but like they take everything out of it and then they stuff it kind of full of chili and things like that. And you kind of like tear the crust off the side and then dip it in and all that kind of stuff like that. That'd be cool.
So we're looking at that. We've also been looking at, we have an idea for like a sustainable restaurant where it's like, it would be like a kind of an extended pop-up, but at the end of the pop-up, like all carbon footprint of us ever being there would be gone.
Oh, wow.
So we're working something like that up in the works.
Like a Banksy kind of thing or something.
Yeah. So kind of like a farm pop-up.
Oh,
they
cool.
would be like using produce from literally directly only in that area. So we'd have to be like, we look to raise our own pig or our own, whatever products we want to use, we'd have to raise ourselves.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
So yeah, that's kind of just the idea we've been starting to put pen to paper for. And I'm trying to write a cookbook as well.
So the next question here is hometown heroes. So what's your favorite restaurant, takeaway, or food truck? Now, this could be in Dublin or it could be anywhere that you've lived in. So it could be any of your friends' places or anything like that. So it doesn't have to be all of them, but just say like the way I kind of explain it to people is kind of like, remember the way Anthony Bourdain did I'm 2 days in such and such a country, where am I going to, you know? So is there a place where you'd kind of go, I have to go here if I was in that location?
Okay, so I'll start in my hometown. In my hometown, you definitely, Casa Mexicana is like a little Mexican restaurant that I grew up eating at probably at least twice a week for most of my childhood. So just, really traditional northern style Mexican food, and just done really well and really hospitable and really friendly. You can sit in or you can take away. It's just quality. All the tortillas are handmade.
Really? Like that's one thing that I never thought was like, because you watch like Maddie Madison and stuff like that online and you see them. Like my thing for years, now this is so bad, especially saying this to a chef, like my thing for cooking from scratch was getting like an Old El Paso meal kit and going like, oh no, sure, I have the bread and all the stuff is here and I've cooked it at home. So that was my cook from home was cooked from scratch. Like, but seeing like there's so many people out there that literally do everything from the likes of the bread right up until like the sauces and salsas and verdes and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Do you reckon that's what makes a really good restaurant is that everything is cooked from scratch or that some stuff is actually produced?
Wait, say that one more time.
So you say, you know, the way like you cook your own bread, like you do everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so, and do you reckon that is the most authentic, proper way to do it? Or is it because the likes
it's hard to say if it's the most authentic, proper way. The only reason I'm cooking my bread is because, well, one, I haven't found a place that I trust enough to give my recipe over to produce it for me.
See, that's the thing.
Because that's what a lot of times when you start to scale up, that's what a lot of Mexican places anywhere in the world, any restaurant, anywhere will do. They give away their recipes, or they basically just work out a deal where a bakery or someone will use their recipes to produce it for them. There's a really good example of that is in London. Gosh, what's her name? She owns, I think it's called Bread.
Oh yeah.
But this lady basically started a small pizza place, and when she sold it to Pizza Express, and but she kept the recipe for the bread. And she started a bakery that supplies the bread now, or the dough, for all the pizzas.
No way.
To this, something that they've now commercialized and changed, which is a very smart thing to do. So it's hard to say because the reason I make it is because I have a very specific way that I want you to experience it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
I feel like I can't go purchase that anywhere yet. You know, I couldn't buy the bread that I served you the Cubano on anywhere in Dublin.
Yeah, and even the shape and the style of it and that as well.
Exactly. No one can reproduce that for me just yet. Maybe down the road, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a hard thing to say what's authentic. I think most of the places that I go to, there is something as simple as a tortilla. You can make them fast enough by hand to supply a fast amount of them quickly if you need to.
Yeah, and
especially three hands.
Like, and that one thing that I've never had before. I'm saying again, a lot of firsts. Like, you have like black tortillas. Like,
blue
or blue, yeah. Like, what's
So once again, like I started the trailer by making my own tortillas, but when we got busy, I physically couldn't do it myself, and even with Laura's help, we couldn't physically make enough to sell as much as we needed to sell every day.
Yeah.
So. There's an amazing tortilleria here called Blanco Nino.
No way.
And they grow their own corn. They nixtamalize it. They do all of that jazz here in County Tipperary. And they have amazing tortillas, like better than I could be making myself. Like their white corn and blue corn tortillas, they're class, man. They're tasty. And I know they're good because there's like a certain smell that comes off of a really fresh, really authentic tortilla. And when you heat it up on the plancha, it's unmistakable. And when I first started cooking the tortillas, I was like, that's the smell. That's the one. So they know and it delivers on taste as well. And they hold up well to any fillings I've ever put in them. And I have a pretty good relationship with them. I really, really enjoy their products. And I'm very fortunate that we have that here in Ireland.
Yeah. So, no, that's cool, man. And do you know, what's your... What do you reckon, like, the future for taco trucks and things like that in Ireland? Because
I think there's a lot of them springing up now.
Yeah,
time will tell. Time will tell who's going to stick around and who's not going to stick around. Some people are literally just jumping on the craze right now because food trucks are the thing to do, and tacos are not exactly difficult. It's an easy enough thing to put together for street food. It is an ideal street food. But it's hard to say because Irish people like things that necessarily aren't exactly authentic. They like the kind of whitewash taco, if you will.
Oh yeah.
But I have no issue with that. If it's tasty, it's tasty. Like I don't care what you put in it. If it tastes great, it tastes great. Yeah. But I do think that there is a lot of people thinking that they're going to make a quick buck doing this, but I can promise you that it takes a lot of time before you see any return on your investment.
Oh yeah, big time.
Like I built this up from when you first came. I was on the side of the road in front of my house
4 years ago or something, man.
Yeah, because we had nothing to do when festival season got canceled, and we were like, what do we do now? And we were lucky enough to get on festival circuit our first year, which is incredibly hard to do.
Yeah.
But we just met the right people.
Yeah. Big time.
And they liked our food and they let us in. So, but it doesn't happen that way for everyone. And some guys I knew, like, they were doing markets for years, man, like years before they got into like any kind of big events and got their names out there. I just read an article the other day that there's something like 400 and something vendors on a waiting list for public trading in Dublin.
Yeah. Like, that's insane. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy. Like, one of the first things, it's kind of a funny story. There used to be a place in town. It was a nightclub, and it was called Bondi Beach Bar, and it was a horrible place for horrible people. But they had this little hot dog guy, and you know yourself, like, you're just drinking pints, lads on tour, we're all having the crack, whatever. And I went over, and there was this like little hot dog guy, and he was selling hot dogs for €1 or something, €1 or €2. And I was just like, all right, could I get 4 hot dogs, please? And your man's just like, yeah, no problem. And he like gave me the hot dogs and poured all the stuff on it, whatever. And I inhaled what could only be described as inhaled 2 of them. And then, like, on the third one, I looked at it and I was like, oh man, there's mustard and all the stuff on it. And he was like, there was mustard and everything on the other 2 that you inhaled as well. You know, I was like, oh shit. But I think that's what the original thing was in Ireland, was the likes of these like burger. It was like either burgers or hot dogs. And it was just a little chap with a cart, kind of like in The Simpsons, you know, like Gruggalush, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that was it. And then it only really kind of, the only time you'd ever kind of see something that would be really like unique or kind of authentic or any of that kind of stuff was when you went to festivals and done that, and you kind of go, oh, okay, cool. I think one of the first things that I've ever had that was really kind of obscure was an ostrich burger. You know, it was like, nice. Like ostrich burger. Now, I couldn't tell you if that was an actual beef burger, or maybe the company was just called Ostrich Burger or whatever. Like, who knows, man? But like, that's the way they were kind of selling it to you in Ireland. You know, it was
I get it.
A mad one. Just seeing all of these things that are kind of creeping up now. I honestly think it'll be more. There should be more kind of places that will pop up, but it's just
absolutely.
These, like,
there's a new Indian place. I think it's called Dosa Dosa that I've just seen pop up. Like food trucks are coming out the woodworks. But it's like, you know, half desperation from restaurant owners who are like, shit, you know, we still gotta get our product out there to people, and the other half is like, you know, people just trying their luck. It like I said, like to any newcomers, don't be discouraged. It is not an easy road to start. But like, if you believe in your product and you believe in what you're doing, then, you know, go for it. Like, that's what I did. It wasn't easy at first, very daunting. You don't pay yourself much to start, but once you get a fan base and you get like people that trust you, kind of like yourself, you know, it wasn't like a hard sell after that. It was like, people would just come and they'd be like, yeah, cool. We're like, whatever you got. Don't know how many,
like, so. That's it. No, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how many people where I've gone like, I'll bring you to the best tacos in Dublin. And they're like, really? And they're like, no, seriously. And I'm like driving up here, and I'm just like, I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl, man. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have the best tacos ever. And I like pulling up to this place, and I'm like, and I'm just there staring at them, like staring in their, like through their soul. And you're after making this, like, and I'm like, well, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, it's good. I told you it was good. And they're like, all right, Jesus, but like, that's definitely happened to me so many times.
I just, as long as I'm providing people with like value for money, and like, you know, they're satisfied with what they walked away with, and, you know, I don't expect to blow everybody's mind. It is nice, you know, when you do, and you've shown someone something that they didn't believe that they could enjoy. You know, we have a lot of people, when I first started putting pork on the menu, like, oh, I don't know, I don't need much pork, you know, and and now they're asking for it like all the time. So it is a nice thing. Like, even the Cubano, I didn't know how that was going to sell at first, but after a while, I couldn't make enough buns. Like, it was on the menu and it would sell a lot. Like, so.
Oh no, big time. And like, like if I was to kind of do like a taco truck, or to do like a food vendor thing, I'm sure you've definitely seen them before, but it'd be more kind of like the Turkish style tacos, where they'd have like the big spits and you kind of cut off on them and stuff like that.
Al pastor.
Yeah, like I reckon that's so, if I was to do it, That's the way I'd go down, because I
in
think
Mexico City, you have tacos al pastor, which is a corn tortilla, and it's like thinly sliced pork shoulder, layered, seasoned with achiote and which is like the annatto seed. It's like a really bright red coloring. Yeah. It's really delicious. And they have pineapple on top. Or you have tacos de árabes, which is the same thing, but instead of corn tortilla, they use like a flour tortilla, more like pita.
Okay.
And that came from Lebanese immigrants to Mexico a long time ago. And that's the kind of thing, like there's my favorite place in LA is called Leo's Taco Truck, and they have like 2 huge trompos that they cook, and they'll sell out of those in like 5 hours, they'll be gone.
Oh shit.
And they're huge, and there'll just be queues and queues of people, and that's all you get. You just go and they just ask you how many you want. Like how many? Plate 5, 4, 5, 6, 10, whatever. You just say I want 10, and they just plate of tortillas down really quick, and they slice it off the thing as fast as they can. And by the time it touches like 3 hands, and then it's like, one guy's onions, one guy's coriander, one guy's limes, and then it's to you, and that's it.
Yeah. Like that's the thing, because I kind of wanted to flip it up, but like as you said, do kind of like a Lebanese kind of style thing, where the way you have like a shawarma kind of stuff.
Yeah, shawarma,
all that kind of stuff. But like you kind of turn around to one person and be like, okay, do you want like salsa verde, or do you want the garlic and taco sauce, and kind of flip it and go, there you go. You can have kind of the Turkish style, or you can have like the Mexican style, but it's still off the same piece.
Absolutely. That's a fantastic thing, man. Yeah. Like it's all about pleasing as many people's palates as you can. Yeah. With the same product. Yeah. Like that's a fantastic thing. Yeah. And that's diversifying, using mise en place. Like a lot of my tacos, they have a lot of the same garnish. They might have a slightly different filling, but like the garnishes are similar on all of them. But that's for several reasons. One, the garnish goes with all of those things.
Yeah, like it really does. Yeah, no, bang
on. And because it's ease of service. Yeah. Like you limit options, but as long as the options you have are mega tasty, you're winning.
I didn't hear no bell.
Just in regards to the food that you got today, so what food did you get today?
So I got a noodle box in Balbriggan. I order from them probably like once a month. Like I think I said when you and I first got online, like I only have like 3 places that'll deliver to me where I'm at. One is it's called Big Bites down in the Knoll. They're like an Indian European style takeaway. We have noodle box, and I think the Apache in Balbriggan delivers to us as well. But I went with noodle box tonight. I got, what did I get? I got sweet and sour crispy chicken with noodles, and I got wonton soup and some duck spring rolls, and they were all pretty mega.
So just in regards to like one thing it's a kind of a huge issue that's popped up, is what was the overall price for the food that you would have got today, like including?
It was, so for just the food that I got, obviously I had to order for Laura as well. So
see, this is the thing. Like I'm doing this stuff, and there's so many people are like, oh no, I couldn't only order takeaway for myself. And it's definitely like going forward, I'm going to have to change this whole kind of concept and turn it into a family meal thing or something. And everybody come in.
So the food that I got for myself, the sweet and sour chicken box, and wonton soup and duck spring rolls all came in at less than 20. What? I because I live far away, it's like a €6 delivery charge. Yeah. Like that was to be expected. But even they would have been €3. So really, I only went €3 over your mark because of my delivery charge. Yeah. But other than that, all the food I got was in the 20 with the normal delivery charge. I would have been 20 on the nose. Cool. So happy days. Yeah. No? So no, it was pretty spot on, to be fair. I don't think you really have to change it. I think 20 is pretty generous. Like I got plenty of food that I literally can't eat in one sitting. So
fly to the moon.
Before we kind of wrap things up and do all that kind of stuff, I just kind of wanted to have a quick chat with you about just kind of the overall aspect of traveling. Like you've been an avid traveler, and is there any sort of like tips and tricks that you'd have in regards to going to, say, like new restaurants or like new cuisines or new countries,
Yeah. I mean, so what I learned, like when we were younger and my parents would take us places, my dad really loves good food too. And he my dad is a very like he wears his heart on his sleeve, like very much like I do. If he's had to pay for something that he really was not happy with, like that's everyone's night ruined. Okay.
Oh, shit, yeah.
So what we learned from like avoiding touristy spots, and what we learned was we'd walk into like cities. Like I'll give you Rome as an example. It's one of the first like kind of memories I can remember, like having these like food revelations, like, oh my God, there's other good food outside of like what my grandma makes, you know? We were in Rome and my dad, we were just walking and we were walking and walking. I was like, why are we walking so far? My dad was like, I'm walking until I can't hear English anymore. He's like, when I don't hear anyone speaking any English, we're going to stop and eat. And I was like, okay. And finally, we found this tiny little hole in the wall, and it was called, gosh, if my brother was here, he would remember. My brother can split this shit off anyway, but I'll ping you the name later. But anyway, and the hole in the wall, and I'm pretty sure I still have the business card for this place somewhere. Like this is like 15 years ago, maybe 16 years ago, and we had this just amazing meal. And my dad, they didn't really speak much English, but my dad communicated with them in Spanish, and they understood everything just fine with each other. And we had this just outrageously good Italian meal. And it was the first time I'd ever tried carbonara. And you know, like, it was my first for a lot of things, and it was just blew my mind. So when I got older and was traveling by myself, it was something that always stuck with me. I would go to places where you had to struggle to communicate with someone in English. You know, a lot of times, like in Western countries, like I would resort to Spanish, and it was very helpful. And the same went in Central and South America, that kind of thing. Go where the locals are. Even in continental US, one of the best ways I'll tell you a story about Spam real quick. I fell in love with Spam because in college we went to Hawaii on a geology trip, and we stayed at Mount Kilauea military camp. And I was an athlete at the time in that, and I was like running and stuff every morning. And about like 6 a.m. I'd run past the mess hall, and there's this big, huge Samoan guy there. And every time this man was sitting in the kitchen, it just smelled delightful. I was like, whatever he's cooking there smells the bomb. So one day on my run, I was almost back, and I decided to stop in the kitchen. And I kind of peeked my head, and I was like, hey, man, what are you cooking? And this guy looks at me like, what do you want, Howley? And that's like it's a bad term for local, like a non-local there. And I was like, oh, man, I smell your food. It smells really good. What are you making? He's like, Spam hash. And I was like, Spam? What? He's like, yeah, you want to try it? This guy fed me a spoonful of Spam hash, and I was like, mic drop, like, what is this amazing deliciousness? And he was like, you want to learn how to make it? Come back here tomorrow at 5 a.m. I was like, okay. So the next morning I was back in that kitchen. I was 5 a.m. I was there. He didn't think I was going to turn up. No. And I did. And he walked me through the whole process of how he makes Spam hash. And I was just like, man, and I didn't realize how versatile Spam was, that really it's just a super salty, savory, umami kind of flavor. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily always need to be the main. It's not like a Spam sandwich. Like it can be a garnish. It can be something tiny and minute like bacon, you know? And that was just purely by just going in and sticking my head in a local place, someone who kind of, that's their culture. And I'd say for anyone like looking to travel, go outside of your comfort zone. Don't always order the same thing. I notice Irish people are very repetitious. When they find something they like, they stick with it religiously. And I mean, hey, don't get me wrong, it's great for my business. When they like it, they come back every time. Yeah. But I would just say that, like, if you're traveling in a place, like, definitely be willing to try the things that like the locals will tell you, like this is what you eat, you know? Yeah. I did that in Portugal the first time I traveled in Portugal. Even like they understood my Spanish, but me understanding Portuguese was not exactly the same. So I had to go on a lot of trust. Most of the time I was just telling them like, look, just you give me whatever you think is best. Yeah. And it's worked out well for me so far. So
oh man, happy days. Yeah, no, that's cool. And do you reckon like once all of this stuff is like all the usual shite, I don't even want to talk about it. It just boils my piss, man, at this stage. But do you reckon that the taco truck that you have in Knoll will go on a little adventure? Do you reckon you're going to go bring it on dust off the cobwebs kind of thing and bring it out and about, or are you just set with the null now at this stage?
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely. Like, we still want to keep the trailer. We still want to keep the trailer available for events. Like, we quite enjoy doing events, and it's also very good exposure. You know, hitting markets that you don't necessarily hit all the time.
Yeah,
you know, keeping upfront in that way and expanding into other markets. It's like a really good test vehicle. You know, you can go see what crowd likes what. And so, yeah, we definitely intend to keep that mobile. We definitely intend to keep doing events in the coming years. You know, we were gutted the last couple of years, like Big Grill was canceled, and just a lot of events that we were like hoping to do again, just, you know, didn't happen. So, you know, yeah, in the future, we definitely want to keep it available. And, you know, hopefully by then we'll probably have another trailer. So, yeah, it won't be, it's good. We're always looking to, you know, keep this expanding in that, as long as I can keep the consistency and quality going, and keep getting, you know, I'm lucky. I have 2 chefs that work with me now that are both great. They're very well driven, and, you know, they're really hungry to make a good skill set for themselves. So, yeah, I'm lucky like that so far. So,
happy days, man. Well, that's class. Just kind of going in the future. How do you see the likes of the whole taco industry and stuff like that in Ireland? You know, are you going to be crowned the taco king and go around and
well, I didn't win the taco battle when I organized that together.
So, that was a fix.
Yeah.
I saw those guys. They came in with a bag of marbles in their pockets, man. Marbles in their socks and all.
No, look, man. I was never like, man, as much as anyone wants to be the best in their industry and that, like, that it wasn't really like about the competition for me. Like, doing those kind of events, especially, was just about getting exposure for all of us. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for anyone out there trying to hand out at what we do. And of course, like, yeah, I want to keep being the best, and I want to keep like trying to push the boat out there, doing some of the first things. You know, I like being that guy who's is like trying to be like, yeah, I did that first. Like,
and that, like, that's definitely the historian in you though as well, is because like at this stage, and that's what I want to do in regards to my website and stuff like that, is to actually document this kind of stuff, is to document the times where like all these influences and things like that have come into Ireland. Because if we didn't have people like you coming over and showing us tacos, we'd be just eating sprouts that have had their bollocks boiled out of them, and a slice of ham that's just, you know, I did
when I was in university, one of my final papers was on intercultural communication, and I focused food as the medium for intercultural communication. And I did have to do several case studies. And like, just a lot of the case studies that I used were like some of the first Chinese food restaurants in America were in San Francisco during the gold rush. And a lot of those times, like, Westerners believed that like Chinese food was poisonous for you. But like, this isn't food from China. These Chinese immigrants the ones who didn't work the railways, set up laundromats and food stalls. And they cooked whatever ingredients they could get their hands on. They just did it in their Chinese style.
Exactly.
And they started selling food to the miners, to the laborers, to the railroad builders, and all that. And some of these people had never spoken to a Chinese person in their whole life. But at some point, when you're walking past the stall and that Ug Fu Young smells the bomb, and you're like, damn, I'm hungry, I want to buy some of that, you have to go talk to a Chinese person, and you have to give them your money, and you have to have this exchange, this cultural exchange of, that smells good, can I get some? And they're like, yes, I will happily sell you some.
Yeah.
And this is like the first things. And so like in maybe not so a dramatic extent, I'm doing something similar here, where I'm bringing a part of like my California culture, my California cuisine to Ireland, and showing them ingredients and methods and styles of food that they've never seen before. Or maybe if they have seen it was just on Instagram or what. We get an unbelievable amount of people who come to the birreria because they saw tacos getting dunked in the broth on Instagram or TikTok, and they're like, you're the only guy doing that we can find in Dublin right now. We want to try it. And I'm like, okay, cool. But just keep in mind, this is my way. This is like something new, but it might not be for everyone.
I'll never forget the first time you were kind of like the boujum rapper, you know, like when you get the burrito and like there's a sticker on it. It's like, you eat your burrito this way. But you literally, you sat us down and you were like, all right, so have you ever done this before? And we were like, no. We were like, that spotty teenager kid in The Simpsons. We were like, no. And then you were like, okay, right. So this is the stuff. Just have a whiff of it. Just have a smell of it. And we were like, smelling. We're like, oh yeah, that smells real good. Like, now dunk it in. We're like, you know, like dunk it in.
That's
and then we were eating it. We're like, it's fucking amazing. And they're like, you can just drink it as well. We're like, why, you can just drink it? And I was just like,
it appeals to people. Like Irish people love sauce, and it's kind of like a nice. It's you don't pour it over like sauce, but if you dunk it in and you drink it, it's just that kind of fulfilling combination of that savory sauciness we all like.
Oh man, it was so good.
Like it was one of those things. I find a lot of cultural exchange here, and it's great. Some people are super open to it. Others not so much. Not everything I make is for everyone. That's you reserve yourself to that. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's great. And the more we're being exposed to it, it's a good thing. But I do think in order to give that kind of real authentic experience, you kind of need to have lived in part of that culture. You need to have like really immersed yourself in and experienced part of that culture. I like I said, I do think some people are bringing it, and they're bringing it to the best of their abilities, but it's not. I'm not saying they are claiming that it's 100% authentic, because they're not. It's just one of those things like people have to be willing to experience the fact that what they might have a preconceived notion about is not how we all are.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And like that is a big thing. It definitely reminds me of just this time when I was in Thailand, and all my mates will take the piss out of me this, because I've been in Thailand twice, but sure, it's like I just absolutely love this place. But we were walking down like the main touristy style thing, and there was this American guy, and not that he was having an argument with one of the street food sellers, but they were selling insects and selling scorpions on sticks and all this kind of stuff. And like the guy was like, oh, if I eat this, will I get sick? And your one's just like, I don't know, maybe. I don't know what you've had all day today. And you're like, well, I don't know. And blah, blah, blah. And then like he made such a big deal about it that we all kind of stood around him going, now you have to eat it because you're after making such a fuss.
Come on then.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, come on then, Mr. Big Balls. Come on, eat your scorpion on the stick. Yeah. And he like bit into it and stuff. And we're like, oh. But it was so funny. It was like when we were talking, because the woman who was selling the stuff, like I was chatting to her afterwards, and she was just like, oh no, like we like Thai people don't eat any of this stuff. It's just we sell it to you guys because it's hilarious. Like it's just like it's such a joke. Like we're not going to eat this now. Like there are definitely there's people out there and it's their cuisine.
Oh yeah, I mean whatever, like insects in the markets in Mexico City are really common.
Yeah, exactly,
stuff like that, and
like
they do eat
and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And but your woman was like, oh, I wouldn't go near any of this shit. This is disgusting. She's like, but you love
I'll take your money. I'll take your money and watch you
eat like, eat the scorpion. I'll give a fuck. But yeah, no, it was amazing. To infinity and beyond. The last section of it is called To Infinity and Beyond. So is what the guest is what are you promoting? What's the next thing that's happening in your world? I'm so sorry. I haven't actually said the name of your company because I can't pronounce it.
So La Cocina Cuevas. My last name is Cuevas.
Cuevas.
La Cocina is the kitchen. So the kitchen of Cuevas.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that's why, yeah. So so we have La Cocina Cuevas Instagram. We have LCC Birreria, which is also tongue twisters. But if you just look up hashtag LCC74, you will find both of our pages and all our tags and stuff like that.
Class.
And yeah, like I wouldn't say we're like promoting anything huge. When they allow us, we have loads of outside seating built here at the Knoll. We can seat like at least 60 people out there, maybe more. 80 was standing, and they're all in their own individual like pods. We've done pods of 4 and 10 in like their own little booths out there. So like you can sit with your group, and obviously we'll open it up as they allow us to have as many as they allow us to have outside. Okay. So it's all outside seating, wooden tables and stuff like that, in like little pods. And in Rathgar, the same. We're working on, hopefully when they let us, we'll have some outside seating available because it's a beautiful sunny yard. It's a great spot to just sit and eat some tacos. So yeah, we've just been hopefully planning for that. And then, like I said, we've been looking at new trailer and trading possibilities kind of towards the coast of Dublin. So yeah, I'd like to sometime this year set up a seafood thing. But if it doesn't happen this year, then it'll definitely be in the works for the coming year. But that's the kind of the direction we're pushing in. But until then, keep coming out to the Knoll and check us out in Rathgar if you're in town. And now that they've expanded us out to 20 kilometers, there's no excuse. You can get out to both places.
Yeah. No, definitely, man. Like, I can't wait. Like this whole thing now is just trying to keep the head down and trying to stay out of trouble. And it was so funny. Like, I remember when we were doing the first kind of lockdown and stuff, I was like, if I get stopped by the guards, I'll just tell them that I need to buy their honey and their bread because it's the only bread that I can eat because it's really nice. And I was like making all these scenarios in my head. I was like,
that's
so
funny.
I'll tell the guard that I have really bad allergies, and that's why I need to get the homemade honey from these guys especially. And
I have to say, the Garda, they've been really good with us at both places. Like they realize that, like, because we're kind of out here in the country, and to be fair, like, I can't even go to the shops within 5 kilometers. So
I know,
it makes no difference really. Most of the people that are coming around here are kind of, there are far removed neighbors, but around here, my closest neighbor is a 2-minute drive away,
Yeah.
So like they were really good with us. That, and they were coming to get burritos themselves. So what are they going to say? And the same happens down in Rathgar, which I should mention. The one in Rathgar is in a place called Ted's Gaff. That's kind of what we've named the yard, and it has its own Instagram and stuff like that. So that's kind of covers us and Frank's Dublin and a guy doing coffee. It's called Ted's Coffee.
Cool.
But yeah, like they even come down, we get guarded down at Ted's Gaff several days a week, come get their burritos before their shift. And, like we're very good. There's, social distancing. We have plenty of space out there and that. So, but yeah, once they ease us up, hopefully some beautiful seating in the sun. And it's definitely a cracking little spot.
Sorted. Cool, man. Happy days. We'll just wrap up the podcast then. So thank you so much for being on the podcast and stuff like that. And hopefully we get you on again soon. You might even get a bit of a duo in with yourself and the missus. Maybe that might be cool.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. And we get all that stuff sorted for you, man. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Kevin, man. Have a good evening.